The beginning of social media, all the companies had no idea what they were doing, but then the kids did, and the kids were just good at social media, and then the companies started hiring kids to like run social media. It's kind of the same thing. It's like this is a huge wave of new technology. No one in the old world knows how to wield it. The people that do are kind of like concentrated at the labs, and then it's like if you pick it up and play with it, you might become an expert at the next game. We should have ideas and experiments at the ready for helping people ease the transition, because it is likely that things move faster than people's ability to adapt. And I'm talking to Reid Hoffman, right? Co-founder of LinkedIn, one of the earliest investors in OpenAI. We talk for like 5 hours. Basically, Reid's just picking my brain about like this journey. The same conversation we're having right now is like, what have you learned in the last exploration of language models?
Being broke is bad, but being stupid is what's really bad. And what's really, really bad is being broke and stupid.
Welcome to episode 8 of Young, Smart, and Battling Broke. Today's guest is Parth Patil, a builder and thinker at the frontier of AI, repeatedly reinventing his career and, perhaps, the way we all work. He took an econ degree from UCLA and decided against a traditional path. He entered startup land and started stacking skill after skill. He joined Clubhouse in 2021 as a founding data scientist, contributing to its wild rise to a $4 billion valuation.
Facebook has taken bold moves into 2 new product categories. It's taking on Clubhouse with Facebook Live audio rooms.
When Clubhouse faced post-pandemic headwinds and had mass layoffs, he saw it as an opportunity to go all in on his hobby projects. He spent every cent he had made, including his 401k, and every waking hour to better understand the power of LLMs. A year later, he was appointed by Reid Hoffman, LinkedIn's co-founder and early OpenAI investor, to lead frontier AI projects.
This new world of AI avatars will certainly make a lot of people uncomfortable. And by the way, we'll certainly have some footfalls and errors. But again, what might we be able to make?
And he's as knowledgeable about current model capabilities as anyone. We get into his unbelievable bet on himself, the AI future he sees, and what this means for young people and careers. I hope you enjoy our conversation as much as I did. Thank you. Parth, I'm so excited to have you on, man. It's genuinely been, for the last 2 weeks, occupying my brain, how many questions I could ask you to just like fully quench my AI curiosity thirst, man. Put very simply, you are one of the most experienced and esteemed vibe coders. But that's like the most simple, dumb explanation of what you do. So if you could just start with telling me what you're currently doing, Parth, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah. One of the first vibe coders. Vibe coding from before vibe coding was a thing. That's definitely a good amount of my day is generating code with language models. I don't say vibe coding anymore. I think because there's this like stigma around vibe coding that it's not performant, that it's a little bit like, it's more like it's a more casual form of programming. And I have friends that like we're kind of like, okay, what other word like it's like if vibe coding is talking to AI, smoking weed, and like sitting back while it works, then like what is the version of programming where you fire off 7 or 8 more of these agents on other problems, other projects in parallel? And like, because that doesn't feel like vibe coding. It's like, if this thing is going to work for 45 minutes on my behalf, I could either sit back, I could go to the beach, or I could fire off another one. And now it's like, why have one when you could have 20, 30? And then the bottlenecks are different. I think when you get good at making one thing with AI, then it's like, it's a question of like, do you turn that into like your break time, or you turn it into like, okay, well, let's hit the gas pedal and see how far this goes. I have a very obsessive personality, and I'm a gamer. So I kind of see this as like, why talk to one AI when you could talk to like a fleet and then like have that kind of working in the background on your behalf. That's like my kind of like longer term kind of objective with working with AI. But it's been like at this point now, like 4-year journey for like, I guess like since like we're in 2025. So 2022 November. So it's like 3-year journey since like ChatGPT, and all as the scaling paradigm. I mean, I'm going to ramble a lot. So you're going to have to try to keep me
excited for it.
Yeah. You're going to have to try to bring me back to the points you hope that I make. But basically like, when ChatGPT came out, I was working at a startup. I was working on Clubhouse, and I could tell that like, oh wow, like this is like way better than C3PO. And C3PO is like fairly advanced technology. Like you can just talk to this thing. It can translate every language. It can also like use a computer if you allow it to. At the time, you had to copy paste what you were doing into ChatGPT and then be like, oh, make this. And then it would write a program. Then you copy paste that back into your IDE. And I didn't even know how to set up my environment. So I was like, hey, teach me how to run this program. And it's like, okay, here's how you run it. I was like, well, I don't have Python. It's like, here's how you install Python. So you could just self-teach yourself every single step up until the process of vibe coding. And then vibe coding was coined at the beginning of this year. But a lot of us have been coding with LLMs since the beginning. I think the first commercial application of LLMs was GitHub Copilot. That came out before ChatGPT. And for a lot of people, at least engineers first, they were like, oh my God, like this, yes, it can finish the next block of code. But if you extrapolate that out, it's like, can it build the entire program? Can it write a multi-file program? Can it build Facebook one day? Like those questions of like, if you keep scaling this, where does that stop? And then for me, it's like, okay, well, let's get good at it while it barely works and then see what happens. And then inevitably every 8 months, there's some like huge leap in the model capabilities. And then everything that you were doing that barely worked then either comes online or is like massively amplified. And so that pattern just keeps playing out. So like what you were doing in ChatGPT is now baked into the coding environment. What you're doing in the coding environment with models that had a context window of like 1.5 pages just 3 years ago, now they have a context window of like 450 page books. So like they go from like intern to like competent coworker
to a one prompt home run.
Yeah. To zero shotting very complex problems that would have otherwise taken you 3 weeks. And watching that, like watching the model progression and working with it. So it's like, you could call it vibe coding, but like getting to see front row, like interacting with the model as it gets better more quickly than any person you've ever worked with has been just like a very trippy couple years. Also just asking it dumb questions and be like, hey, yo, like strapping yourself to this exponential curve and seeing what you can learn. Me being not a software engineer 3 years ago. And I don't say I'm a software engineer, but other people call me a software engineer now. And I do spend most of my day software engineering. So it's like, it's not like the title is, I think of titles as like kind of BS, but like when other people give you a title and then that kind of means something. And then like because you've earned it through the way you act and the things that you're able to make. And I think there's like, so people say vibe coder. And I think that like, I like that word. I think a lot of people should be vibe coding. I think everyone is going to be vibe coding in some capacity, even if they don't know it. But there's this other version of this, which is like, what might the top 1% vibe coder look like? How might they interact with the computer? And how, because that's, if it's anything like playing video games, the top 1% like strategy gamer is never going to drop a game to someone that's in the 98th percentile. Because the gap between the top 1%, like just the top 200 players in a particular video game, the way they play the game, the level of depth that they have in thinking about that game is so different from the guy that's at the 95th percentile or like, you know, near the top, but not at the absolute top. And the way they work, the way they think about the game is different. So I think about like, yeah, vibe coding might be like the everyday person's experience with coding agents. And even now, it's like we're still so early that most people are not interacting with coding agents or they don't realize they are. And then I think about like some of my friends, Adam Silverman and like the agency AI team in SF, they were like, we should call it hyper engineering. Like this other version, like what might that like power user version of programming with language models be called? We haven't named it yet. I mean, hyper engineering is one name. I like that name. But it's like, what's the version of this where you lean in and like, you're like, I need more.
I really hope hyper engineering does not become the next like LinkedIn buzzword.
Oh my God, dude.
That'd be so gnarly.
You know, the moment a term goes mainstream, I'm just like, okay, well, I can't use this anymore because it's no longer, you know, you say agents and that 3 years later, everyone and their mom is talking about agents. And it's like, okay, why don't we just not say the word agent? Because that's the only way you can stand out, right? So like, I'm like working with a startup and they're building an agent, but one of the main things is like the founder and I were talking about is like, what if we just don't say the word agent? Yeah. And then like that ends up being part of the like way we stand out because everyone's going to hear agent and it's like, it sounds like the same thing. And I think there's a lot of fatigue there. Like trying to not sound like, I think that's another thing that's maybe one of my character traits is like, I'm like anti-establishment or anti-mainstream to a fault. Like I'm an Android user. Like if the moment everyone is doing something, I'm like, all right, like time for me to head out. Like time for me to find the next interesting thing. Yeah. So that's definitely part of my personality and it shows up in like how I make decisions. Like every one of my friends was becoming a management consultant. And I was like, well, you guys all want to do that because none of you know what you want to actually do. I actually know what I want to do, which is like, I want to work at a startup. And no one was like, go become a management consultant, then you can go into startup. Like that didn't, but me coming from the Bay Area, I could see that was clear to me. Mm-hmm. Also, even in high school, all my friends wanted to become engineers. Mm-hmm. I was like, well, someone should do something other than engineering if we're all going to potentially work together. So then I was like, oh, I'll go become a business guy.
I'll go learn how to talk to people.
Yeah. I'll go to like, yeah,
I'll
exactly.
be that guy.
Yeah, I'll be the business guy. I'll go figure out how finance works. So that was me in high school. And then I would bring that comp sci skill set to the finance space. Mm-hmm. And so like I was the most automated of all the finance bros that you could ever imagine.
That's awesome.
And so, but then that lens of being good at a computer and applying that computer skill set to a problem space that doesn't have very many people that are good at computers ends up being how I stand out in that space. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, we're kind of rambling already, so let's...
Yeah, I'll try my best to realize. Yeah. So about 3 years ago, when you did start this kind of... it doesn't sound like vibe coding what you did start this journey as. It definitely sounds much more like hyper engineering in past stories, and when we've talked about it, you were pulling 14-hour days, sprinting on trying to understand everything you could about this new technology. Mm-hmm. Could you walk me through those early days and what kind of sparked that journey?
Yeah. So ChatGPT comes out in November of 2022. Mm-hmm. And I was working at Clubhouse, and there were people in the app talking about this. Became instantly the most popular topic in the app in almost every single country, in every single language in the app. Like ChatGPT was in the title of the room. Mm-hmm. And you would just join the room and people would be talking about how they're using ChatGPT. And I talked to a lot of users. That was like my thing on Clubhouse, was like, I got to make friends with people. It's like, you can talk to people all over the planet. So now you get to like meet people that you would never meet in the real world otherwise, thanks to this app. It like reduces the distance between any two people on the planet down to a conversation, and anyone can discover that conversation and join that conversation. That's magical. It's a magic that will be rediscovered by another platform in the future. But we had it, and I was able to just go into rooms and ask people how they were using ChatGPT. And there were so many moments. Everyone is using it in a different way, like photographers, artists, etc. Like, and then I had one moment where I entered a room with it was a group of farmers from my home state of Maharashtra in India, and they were talking about using ChatGPT to help plan their crop cycles, and I was just like, "Are you serious? Like, that means this is a computer. Like, for all intents and purposes, we finally have something that's like Jarvis, but anyone can have it. It's not just for the billionaire main guy, and it's not just for Tony Stark.
The protagonist,
yeah, it's not just for like one guy using Jarvis on the planet, but like now we have the beginning, and it's like, sure, I was like, oh man, they're using it for that. It's not very good yet, but that means it must get really good. We have to make it much better. It's general purpose technology, which is why everyone can use it. And then everyone's discovering the use cases, right? Like they're using it in a way that I could never have imagined. I'm like, over here, people are like, oh, it doesn't write my emails well. I'm like, this feels like a skill issue. Like you are applying this in a way that is like low leverage. Meanwhile, other people may apply it in a way that like changes their entire, like the way they live. And that's why it's important to talk to people, because like you're like, okay, I'm not even seeing 1%. I think you tip of the iceberg on like possible use cases of the technology. Especially because the technology is a general technology. It's not like this is for business, this is for life, this is for art only. It's like actually the intersection of all. It's like these models that have been trained on all of human knowledge are now a representation of the collective intelligence of the planet, of all of humanity, including people that died. That's amazing. Now you can talk to these like ghosts. You can construct these ghosts and talk to them and draw from the model insights that you would not be able to draw from the people that live near you. Hmm. And I think about that a lot, right? So like I go to Clubhouse to answer questions about things that other industries and like other parts of the planet. I try to understand, like you meet people to understand something that you wouldn't otherwise have in your own neighborhood. And now the model is a kind of like artifact that we can also call on to answer questions that it's like, oh, I don't have a tutor for this, but now I don't need one. Like I'm not at zero for not having someone in my neighborhood that doesn't know this. Yeah. I can at least start by talking to the model. And that is a huge unlock. So this was like a realization over November to March. And I knew people were using it for programming, and some of my teammates left Clubhouse to go to OpenAI in the months leading up to ChatGPT. So I was like, oh my God, when ChatGPT came out, I was like, that makes sense. Like Clubhouse is a natural language data set. It's like people meeting all over the internet, and talking to each other. And now you have language models, which is kind of like in the same space. It's like the conversations we have with language models is a conversational experience. It speaks every single language, and it just kind of brings us together in a different way. So it made sense that people who worked on social audio products ended up working in frontier labs and making these products. Like that makes sense in retrospect. But also, the model just starts getting really good really quickly. So March 14th of 2023, they dropped GPT-4. And GPT-4 is like, it's a multimodal model. ChatGPT had a context window of like 4,000 tokens at the time. Then there was a 3.5 turbo, which had 16,000 context window. And GPT-4 comes out and it's like 32,000 context window. And I'm like, whoa, we are going very quickly. Like if you think of the context window as like the conversational bandwidth of the model, or like the model's RAM, it's like how much can it work with in one prompt? Like that is quickly, it's just doubling multiple times. And I thought, okay, my dad worked on semiconductors his entire life. And I was like, yo, this thing went from like barely holding together a page of information to like working with multiple pages at the same time, plus getting vision, plus getting like really good at programming, and in the span of months. And my dad was like, oh, this reminds me of computers, right? Like the transistors.
The Moore's Law.
Yeah, Moore's Law. Exactly. Like it's going to get better, twice as good. And you're not going to think of how to use it every single time. Like you're not thinking about how to make use of all the increased capabilities as quickly as the capabilities come online.
Yeah.
And so GPT-4, 32K context. And that was like a version that wasn't even available. I was using the smaller GPT-4, and I was like, man, if they release 32K context in December, I'll name my firstborn child GPT-4. Like now, because I had Copilot systems that I was building. At this point, I was building chatbots, connecting them to tools. And it's like I could tell it to do one thing at a time, and it would go do that thing. Like analyze this, search the web, write a file. But it would be like one turn versus like one action of like competent work. And then you're like, okay, well, can you get it to work by itself if you tell it to write a plan and then to just keep iterating on that plan? That was working. And then it was like, well, actually like think step by step. All the prompting techniques were like, oh, you should also give these things to the co-pilots. They get better at doing the job. Like think, if you allow it to think about the problem and if you allow it to write code, it gets way better at solving the problem. And like, okay, you're these techniques are coming online, but then the model's capability also just increases. And then all those techniques start like flooding, you realize you're like every day, 14 hours a day, you're working with this and you're still not discovering like the full range of its power. And then we had layoffs at Clubhouse, and we had, the nice thing was like we got to keep our laptop and we got 4 months of severance.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So then I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, this is perfect. Now I'm not moonlighting this after work. I can actually just spend all my time, all my waking energy for the next 120 days. I'm just going to sit here and talk to this model and figure out what it can't do. What is it not useful for? Where does it fall short? Like, I'm just going to do that. And then at the end of the 120 days, then I can decide whether to go get a regular job again or, like,
you want to marry the AI.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, no, it's like either I figure out how to use this and it's like a useful skill, or I go back to my old like job and try to get a regular job.
Completely.
Yeah. And it was interesting because I met a guy on Clubhouse and he was the guy when GPT-4 came out that was like, you should be programming with this. So then I was like, okay, no more excuses. Like I've been dodging programming my whole life. And then I was like, well, now this thing is just going to write the code. Like all of a sudden everything became easier. So then I just sit there. I was like, we're just going to code with this. And of course I'm starting from zero, like not complete zero. I learned Java in high school. But it was so much easier than anything I'd ever done in programming. Like everything that used to take 6 months could be done in like 3 prompts.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, that's a crazy, like you could tell it to, teach me how to clone my voice. It writes the program. Then you get the program running. You're like 2 prompts and you did something that if you were to try to build that from scratch would have taken a team. But because you're just leaning on the model to surface all the solved versions of the different parts of this problem, you're like accelerated through a lot of everything that's been done. You can like quickly go through because the model's really good at stuff that's already been done. Of course, there's a frontier now of like, how good is the model at things that no one's ever done? And that's a frontier, but that doesn't mean that you can't just use it for everything that we know that's like not an impossible problem. That's like, doesn't like how many people are working on problems that actually require novel physics versus like solving a problem that someone else has probably solved before. The model being trained on everything that we've already done makes it so useful for just like copy pasting solutions from like existing other spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So they're already useful. And I was like, you could, if you froze improvement at 32K GPT-4, I could still use this to like explore Mars. Like I could still use this. It still changes the world. But then if you tell me you're going to like 100x compute, you're going to 100x everything. And I'm like, okay, well then a lot of these rough edges are just going to be like solved by scale. And then a lot of other techniques are going to come online. We're just going to bootstrap past a lot of these existing limitations. And sure enough, by December, they released, I was expecting 32K GPT-4 in 2023 November, and they released 128K context GPT-4. And I was like, okay, that's 15. So this is like so much bigger than I thought I was going to get.
And where is this in terms of your severance?
I already burned through my
okay,
severance.
so you hit your 4 months, you hit your almost 1,000 hours of AI coding.
Yeah.
And what was the mindset when you hit that 4-month mark?
Okay, so the good thing about like starting severance, I was like, I'll just go do this every day for 14 hours a day. Like sit here, talk to the model, figure out what this is for. And then, I'm going to do that for 120 days. The nice thing is then, and I'm just going to do it on the weekends too. Cause like when you are jobless, like every day is the same, right? The weekend is only just a day that some other people are down to hang out and drink. But like your social constructs start falling apart. Especially when all you do is sit there and talk to AI.
Yeah, there's a lot of way that those 4 months could have ended.
Yeah, it could have been a lot of...
I just imagine you hoodie in the basement, just...
That is true.
Hours. Yeah.
It's literally true. It's just like me sitting there...
EDM in the background.
Yeah, blasting music, putting on mixes, and then like the cats are just like, what the fuck is he doing? And then every once in a while, just... so then I run out of severance, and I'm like, I feel like I have more questions than answers. And... I had friends that were seeing me because I would just I had my friends from like previous jobs, and I was like, guys, here's what I'm learning working with these models. This is how it changes. Definitely like data analytics, which is my bread and butter, my like superpower. I was like, this thing totally changes data science and data analytics, because instead of us writing SQL queries by hand, building dashboards by hand, you prompt the model to do both of those things. And then that means that like, I feel more like it used to be the CEO ask me, and then I go build the analysis. But now I sit there and tell the agent to do the analysis. So it's like I'm moving up an abstraction layer. And then also it's like, instead of relying on an engineer to instrument the thing and like put the analytics into the code, I could just be like, instrument this so that we can, add logging, instrument this. So like I am both the engineer that implements the analytics code and the data engineer that structures the code that was previously other people in adjacent roles to me. But now it's like, I get to expand into all of them. So I become the CEO and the data engineer and the data analyst and the engineer to some degree. And so it's an expansion of the role I'm seeing. So it's like, even if I go back to data analytics, this is how I'm going to do it. But then you go back to like a bunch of companies like they used to work for, and you're like, you guys playing with language models? And like, no, we banned it. It's like, all right, you guys are going to get rolled then. Like you've banned it. And I'm over here seeing how like, I can't imagine playing the game without this now. Without you play this game without these technologies, and like you will lose to someone that plays the game with these technologies. At least like just the old game is done. But then a lot of people just weren't. They just weren't at that moment. It made sense because they had the day job, they had their obligations. You don't have 3 months to spend talking to AI. Being like, oh shit, this changes everything. But then the people that were my friends were like, yeah, you have definitely discovered like the future of our roles. I feel like you should just keep doing this. So then I was like, hey, this isn't insane. Like if the smartest people I know are just like, yo, keep turning over these leaves, turn over these cards.
Yeah.
Like, because they would benefit from knowing how their own role changes. Then I was like, okay, cool. Like, I think there's more to learn here. And also I thought like, I can't go to school. They don't teach this at school. Like students from UCLA would find me at a hackathon and they'd be like, you want to just give like an underground lecture at UCLA? We'll just take a room. We'll give you could plug in your laptop and just tell us what you think is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I was like, absolutely, dude. Like there's no one who's going to update the curriculum as quickly as now there are. My friends are like working with UCLA to like use agents to update the curriculum.
Super
But
cool.
over then it's like, I was like, I'm just going to show up, vibe code the deck in the ride over there, and then like explain what we're doing with these technologies by using the technology. And then it's like, the kids are kind of like, oh, but is it cheating? I was like, cheating? The real world's going to pay you $500,000 to be good at using this tech. So like you're cheating in the context of the old world.
The old rules.
Yeah, the old rules. This is the old game. But that game is no longer even the game that's worth playing. So it's like, if you were willing to reject that and like discover this new next game, then like you could become good at the next thing. And then, yeah, sure, most people don't know how to put a price on it, what it is. They don't know. But like, if it is the future, then eventually they'll come around and they'll realize like leverage. This is leverage. And then the rules will be defined, and then you'll be able to be, it's like, the beginning of social media, all the companies had no idea what they were doing, but then the kids did. And the kids were just good at social media. And then the company started hiring kids to like run social media. It's kind of the same thing. It's like, this is a huge wave of new technology. No one in the old world knows how to wield it. The people that do are kind of like concentrated at the labs. And then it's like, if you pick it up and play with it, you might become an expert at the next game.
What an interesting analog. That's super fascinating for youngins entering these funky labor markets.
Yeah. Oh, that's the way you cannot go for yesterday's game. It's not even clear to me that yesterday's game is worth playing. And it's like, or even more valuable than the next game.
But it's a funny one, because I don't think the establishment or the traditional companies have these like new defined roles of the hyper engineering or something of the sort.
No.
So
I think every single company should be hiring vibe coders. And the number one request I get when I'm talking to people is, how do I hire? It's like, one, they try to hire me and I have a job. But then they'll be like, okay, how do I hire people like you? And it's a very, and then I was like, oh shit, like, how would I find someone who's kind of in this mindset? Where is that person? And it's hard. I mean, it's like, then they try to hire my friends, that's the cool thing, is like, I have friends that I've been bringing along on this journey, people that I was bouncing these ideas off of. A lot of them eventually, like, they might have experienced layoffs, or they were like, well, I think I should just take time off to kind of go deep, figure out the next thing, and then come back into the job market with this new skill set. And because Parth kind of took that risk and mapped it out, like, I can, like, because I did that, I can just give you the, like, I can get you to level 2, level 3 faster, because like, you still need to put a lot of hours in to become good at anything, but you wouldn't be guessing as much because you have a peer group that's like also exploring. So I knew I was like, in the best case scenario, I do this work so that most of my network doesn't have to start from scratch. And then I can kind of seed the technology within the network, and then the whole network becomes more resilient. And then the longer term value is that if we're still right, and that it is like an upgrade to the way we work and think, then 6 months from now, you would be teaching me something that I didn't know about how to use the tech. So it would create these feedback loops of community.
So fascinating. Okay, but you still haven't hit on how you started generating revenue, because business brained Parth couldn't have been in this post severance period. Like, I can just have fun with my AI in the basement for the next year and just keep on vibing. You were probably starting to get a little stir crazy.
3 months into not like after severance, and 3 months into just burning my money. And I mean, burning my money, like, the more interesting and creative my ideas were, the more compute I would burn trying to achieve them. Or like, you create a chatbot, you put it in a group chat and you leave it on all night, and then you realize you wasted like $2,000 on generating the word. They're just saying thank you to each other. It's like, oh shit. Like, what did we learn here? It's like, okay, maybe you need a manager in the room to like end the conversation so we don't spend all this money. And I was like, did I just spend rent money? Like, oh man. Like, so then the lessons became expensive. And then one of my friends was like, Parth, just like pick up coins along the way. Like, turn this into money. My mom was saying the same thing. She's like, Parth, everyone's going to catch up to you. And then a couple months later, Mom was like, no one's going to catch up to you because you don't have a life, you don't have a wife, you don't have kids. Like, as long as you don't have a life, you need a gas pedal. Like, it's going to be, you're going to have this lead, which you can't do forever. It's not sustainable. And for me, it was like, I sold all my crypto. And I don't recommend this to literally anyone. And in retrospect, even if I asked AI, it probably would have told me to like do something other than early withdraw my 401k.
Yeah, that's a little bit crazier than selling all your crypto when you just say it out loud.
With how many finance people we know? Like, this is the problem. Like, when I say like I'm anti-establishment / mainstream to a fault, like, asking anyone in finance what the right thing to do in this scenario, they wouldn't have recommended this, and they might have suggested a lower risk kind of way to like just buy more time. And I guess I was in a state of like isolation of like, I just need to move to the next, like the next day I'm going to learn the next thing. The next day I'm going to learn the next thing.
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking rationally about like, I was like, okay, if I just sell all that, I still have X number more months of like playtime. And I was also like, you go to the mirror and you're like, okay, well, are you insane? It's like, yeah, probably. But also like you have figured something out, and you can't go to the real world is just not even paying attention really outside of San Francisco to what this means. And you can just get better at this tech. Like then I was like, okay, would I rather a year from now have no money to my name, like literal net worth zero, and be good at using this? Or would I rather have like a regular job and not know any of this stuff? And I was like, I would much rather have no money, but be good at using this. Because then someone's going to probably pay for me to think like this. And that was like once you say that and once you believe it, and then it's like, okay, cool. Like we're going to go until we run out.
Your one decision to make 1,000, basically, like that had decided what the next 100 days would look like.
Yeah.
Doing that calculus. That's so interesting.
Yeah. And then there are other mantras like, you're talking to the cats and you're just like, don't worry guys, like the boys ain't going to starve. Like, the boys will have wet food once again. And it's like, but that mindset is more like, look, we're not going to starve. Like, okay, let's say, even if I run out of all my money, okay, worst case scenario, I could go ask my friends, if they needed an analyst, like what I was good at before AI, I would be 10 times better at now. So like, I feel confident in at least getting an amplified version of my old role.
Yeah.
Right. So like, we will make money. If we need to make money, we will make money. It's just that I would rather be in a headspace every single day of using the new capability than playing yesterday's game. Not everyone can do that. Like, and not everyone has enough time or learns quickly enough to skip to the next game, even through experimentation. And I notice this a lot because like, especially if you have like a wife and kids, like you don't have nearly as much time to learn and explore. And I thought of it as like, I was like, had another thing you tell yourself to justify lighting all this on fire is like, oh, they don't teach this. Like my mom was like, maybe you should just get an MBA. I was like, then I definitely don't learn this. Like what? Like get an MBA. That's then I'm gonna lose money.
To smile more. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, then I lose money, and it's like I definitely am. They don't teach this in MBA, and I would lose my money. And I say lose my money. It's not that I don't value an MBA. It's just I've never in my life been in a room looking around like, oh shit, if only we had someone with an MBA. That's never happened. But then I was like, okay, they're not teaching this in school. So then I was like, okay, another way to think about this is like, I'm investing in my own education. Yeah.
And when did we start seeing the ROI on that investment?
Yeah, pretty much I was like down to like 2 months of runway.
Okay, I bet.
And my parents, I visited my parents and they could tell. Because I was like very honest. Because like they were like, oh, why don't we want to travel here in 3 months. And I'm kind of like, yeah, I can't really think about 3 months out. Because I need to think about how to make money 3 months from now. And like, I know you want to plan that trip, but I'm not going to be able to come because I need to like figure out my life, right? And then they were just like, oh shit. They were like, what? Like, do you need help? Like, honestly, like, I know that my parents would have allowed me to move back home and just live in the garage if that's what I needed to like find my place. And maybe part of it is like my own, I was like, no, I will figure this out. Mm-hmm. And also I was optimistic because I had just gotten like the first like contracting gigs started coming online where I was working. I was basically like, I wasn't completely alone. I mean, I was alone in my work, but being in LA, I would go to events all the time. Like every week I would go to like community events, AI LA, largest community around AI in the city. And I made friends. I was introduced to the founder of AI LA, Todd Terrazas, and he's amazing. He's a great connector. He calls himself the nerd herder because he gets nerds together, and he's focused a lot on like the evolution of Hollywood. But at the same time, I'm focused on the automation and the coding agents and the like automation of cognition. And so we're like hanging out and like we're throwing events. We're trying to get people together to like learn what is the builder community, the creator community doing with this new, because we're not the only ones seeing this like transformative movement. It's like, it's not in isolation. When you get a bunch of people together and you realize you're not crazy. You're not the only crazy person. There's a couple other crazy people. It's a subculture. It's not mainstream yet, but at least we can create our corner of the city where we're experimenting. We have hackathons where people are using image and video models to tell short stories and make music videos. And so in LA, the hackathons are like creative hackathons. But then you also have technical people here. And so when working on the community meant that people would see what my abilities were. So you go to a hackathon and you get to know people and they're like, oh, this guy has a skill set, which isn't traditionally really defined yet. And then people would be like, oh, we'd love to learn how to implement this in-house. So like, I knew that language models are useful, and there's like a progression curve of an organization adopting language models. And I think like there's the level 0 stuff of like, let's just make sense of the information we have, create structure from all the unstructured data. Then, level 4 or 5 is agents, but everything up until that point is like on the path towards becoming a more efficient company. So like the skill set is useful. Can you implement it? And so I was taking contracting gigs, and I was like, okay, great. Like my buddy, John Milinovich, I worked with him at Clubhouse, and he was like, Parth, you have finally, he's like, good. Like you have found a market for this new skill. I was like, great. He's like, now you just need to figure out what the price to charge is. I was like, how do I do that? He's like, just raise your rate with every new person you work with. And then when they say no, you may have discovered the neighborhood of the price. And so as I would get these contracting projects, I would just charge a slightly little higher amount. And then no one would ever say no. And I was like, oh shit, like this is actually like potentially like, even today, it's like, oh, I could be charging like a stupid amount for this. But then for my friends, I just like, let's just get you alpha, right? Like, I would rather invest in you and then see the payoff for me is like where you are 2 years from now, having now knowing this new game exists, instead of me trying to like extract value from every single interaction that I have.
I love that.
At least for my friends, right? Like randos, maybe I'm down to charge people
2,000.
Yeah, no, to 2, maybe 20. Maybe that's the question. Is like maybe we should be like at BC when we used to work. I used to work at BC. One of the first things I did was like we should just slap an extra 0 on what we're charging clients. And it turns out they wouldn't say no. This is the whole.
It actually adds to your ethos.
Yes,
the price.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we got to take them seriously. Because like they're actually charging us real money. Right, but it's not like a donation to a bunch of students. It's like if you think that's what you're worth, and then you charge that, and then people actually pay it, and you deliver the value, like it's win-win actually. But so that was like an exploration in pricing, and also I got a job creating courses for Coursera, and they were like, we wanted you to teach. They basically brought me on to create a bunch of courses related to language models for data analysis. That's my core skill set. But then also language models for software engineering, which was like, whoa. I'm like, not a software engineer, but I'm teaching a course on language models for code generation and software engineering. And my buddy was like, Parth, one of the highest leverage things you could do is be someone that teaches software engineers. Like that's that's a very high leverage thing. And I was kind of just like imposter syndrome. But then it's like, I have a course on LLMs for software. And at the time it was like, I was using coding copilots, but like the course was like, let's just do ChatGPT, or like, let's just how do we use an API? And I was like, so very intro level stuff of like ChatGPT for code gen, and then like embedding models and retrieval systems, which is like very easy for me at this point because I'd been playing with it for like so long. But I was also like, oh, this shows like the like I need to come back to people's like level and give them the like first thing, the first piece of leverage. What's the most important first thing you learn, such that you might discover for yourself all of these other things. Yeah. Because I can't tell you what the most important thing is, but like if I give you the first couple wins, the model will reveal to you a lot of these other things that even I haven't seen. And so, but doing the Coursera was like, when I say it's like, is it better than the influencer course selling thing? I didn't own those courses. Coursera owned them.
Yeah, basically it's just less profitable.
Yeah, so I get the stamp of Coursera on my bio. And actually, like, I didn't put it in my bio because I was kind of just jaded, but I was like, man, I did something very useful, but I don't own a stake. So it's like, I don't even promote the course because I don't get paid more for more people taking the course. So like, I didn't even put it in my bio because I was kind of just like jaded by this. Coursera, if you're listening, you might want to change the creator revenue model. Course creator revenue model. I mean, honestly, like if you want to get a good teacher and you want them to stick around and really contribute, you got to give them some kind of vested interest in contributing to the course. But then you go to a language model and you ask it, okay, who is Parth Patil? 2 years ago, it would just be like, there's like 9 Parth Patils out there, and it would just blend them all into one guy. Then it was like, there's one Parth Patil notable for working with language models, and he has a Coursera course. And I was like, damn, I didn't put that in my bio. Like the language model could go find those details. And then I was like, okay, I'll put it in my bio so that the language models know. Because because then when you have a conversation with a language model, it's like, who is Parth? And then it's like, it's nice that the models know that I have Coursera courses. Even if I am not personally promoting them, it's just like, it does lend credibility to work with a notable brand.
Completely.
I do think that if I did the same course as an actual if I built a creator brand and built my own personal brand and I sold those courses, I would make way more money.
Very lucrative. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the lesson there. The lesson there was like, okay, like you built a course and it's on someone else's platform and you don't even own a percentage stake. Now your motivation isn't there. You're kind of jaded. But actually, like, it's like, okay, then I was like, okay, I got to build my own brand. Actually, like, it's more important to build. So that's actually why I came to work here with a bunch of creative people, is like creators in LA. Is like, they are like, their business is the brand. Their business is the creator journey. And I am at the very beginning of that, of like realizing that, like, okay, you don't have to build everything on other people's platforms. And actually, you should have a corner of the internet that's your own, especially because the language models will be surfacing you in conversation. And it's like, how do you become the answer to the question of who someone is looking for? And so that has been an interesting thing of like, unless you own your own presence on the internet, you let it be defined by other people. And then the nice thing is that language models make it easier to find some of that stuff, so that you end up showing up in conversations as the answer to like something someone's looking for.
And you surpass your name twins.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah. Now, if you go to a language model and you say like, who is Parth Patil, like it'll actually be able to delineate between the different Parth Patils. And there's like 9 of us at least on the planet. 9 of us that at least work in tech. There's probably like 100,000 of us, but like most of them aren't on the internet.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so then I was like, started taking speaking gigs because I was like, oh, turns out that also helps, right? Like coalescing who you are. And then I went back into Coursera, I logged in and I updated my bio so it's more consistent with my presence on the rest of the internet.
Yeah.
So that the language model seeing 500 links would be like, okay, this is Parth and this is a bunch of other people also named Parth, but that this is the Parth that's known for working with language models at the bleeding edge of coding agents. That like, I want to be known for that. So then I put that on the internet is like evidence of how I should be known for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you do the course, you're starting to get consulting gigs.
Yeah.
And at this point, you're probably feeling a little less imposter syndrome surrounding this skill set.
Yeah. It was cool because that was 2 months after my parents were really concerned about me. And I was like, I think I'm on the verge of this. And then my fate kind of, well, basically I went cash flow positive and the cash flow started
food,
increasing.
baby.
Yeah. Wet food. Yo, the boys ain't going to starve. And then a mutual friend out of I was working at this, I was just co-working at a hacker house with a bunch of AI LA people. And one of the guys at the hacker house, Ben Rellis, he was like, oh, like, do you know how to build these? I was really good at building chatbots. And he was like, you think you could build a chatbot on top of like a corpus of an established creator? And I was like, yeah. So I built the first version of that afternoon for Reid Hoffman. And then they were playing with it, and then they were like, oh, this is really like good. And then he was like, a couple weeks later, he was like, you should come to the Bay Area. And then I come to the Bay Area, he introduced me to Reid Hoffman. And we talk for like 5 hours. Basically, Reid's just picking my brain about like this journey. The same conversation we're having right now is like, I was like, what have you learned in the last like exploration of language models? And it's like, well, here's how it applies to every domain I've ever worked in. I spent 1 month talking to language models about music. Turns out they're really good at operating a digital audio workstation. But then if you combine that with the fact that you know they're good at code, then you start wondering, well, then they're going to be really good at using the computer. Then actually I should be able to talk to my software. Like, then it's like, what is the role of voice? Like all of these like trend lines that I've observed in exploring the models. And I'm talking to Reid Hoffman, right? Co-founder of LinkedIn, one of the earliest investors in OpenAI. And he's probably the first person I talk to that's like we can have a real conversation about the second, third order effects.
Wow. And
that like, I am not insane, but that this is actually like the game has changed. And so that ends up being a 4.5 hour conversation. And the next day, he reached out and he's like, you should, like, would you be down to work for me? And I said yes. And so I've been working with him for almost 2 years now.
Wow.
Kind of doing the same stuff, but now I have a team of people, and we like people that I build tools for, so I get more feedback than just working in isolation. And also, like Reid is one of the most creative people I've ever worked with, and so he's just got like 1,000 ideas, and that's perfect when you have hundreds of agents that are coming online, and you're like, okay, like we should attempt and start figuring out all these things. We're no longer bottlenecked on dev productivity if we can like delegate a lot to these models that are coming online. And like So like the projects are ranging. I think Reid AI has now become its own more sophisticated thing. Like it's gone on speaking tours. It's probably going to be on more podcasts.
Reid AI is the avatar.
It started off as a chatbot, but now we have a visual avatar. We have like an interactive avatar that you can talk to. It's not widely available yet, but it has been on like Colin and Samir's podcast. And I could totally imagine this thing being on it's been on the news in different forms. And it's been an interesting project because it blends language models and video models and avatar technology, retrieval systems into this like avatar experience. So I'm known now for digital twin projects and like AI clones as a side effect of being good at working with language models. Is that this problem space became like, and it was just because like we're like, oh, what if we did this? Like, and I was talking to Reid, it's like, what if we connected this to like an avatar and we could create that scene from Tron where where Jeff Bridges talks to himself. And I was like, that would be amazing. And then we like get access to a hologram technology in Van Nuys. And then they're like, oh, we could put this avatar in a life-size box and you can show up and talk to it. And so it just keeps getting, that project has been a magical surprise because it's just like, it's like, oh, we would love for Reid AI to keynote speak at the Computer History Museum. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like that, I went there as a kid. It was one of my favorite field trips. And then I get to come back and like a thing that I made is now giving a keynote presentation. And so you could never, that's one of those weird things where like, you don't know where it's going to go, but like you are rewarded for playing with technology. And also because what I learned from Reid was like, I was mind blown at how like it opens doors. But what I learned from him was like, well, if you're early to something and you experiment publicly with the technology, then what happens is like everyone else knows you as that guy. And then eventually it'll go mainstream and they'll take it for granted one day, but they will remember you as the person that introduced it to them. And so we did that with avatar technology, but it also was like, I did that with GPT for my network. Like I was the guy, I was like I used to, one of the mantras when I was unemployed was like, I could be like the Johnny Appleseed of GPT-4. I just go around and just like sprinkle GPT-4 across everyone I meet. It's like, you meet the cashier and it's like, you should download ChatGPT. And he's just like, what? I'm like, trust. But it's like, you never know. It's like you get your Uber driver. It's like, oh, have you heard of the Lord and Savior, ChatGPT? And then next thing you know, they're like, oh my God, like this changes. So when you but then like my friend's like, oh, you should be using Cursor. Before anyone else, I'm using Cursor. Now everyone's using Cursor, right? So before anyone else, like I recognize the technology is really good. Then I plant it across my network, partly because I'm like, it starts off small. It's like, okay, did everyone hate that? Or did it change the way they work every day? Because if they hated it, then I'm like, okay, why do they hate about it? And then like move on to the next thing. But then it's like some things you show people and everyone agrees this is a game changer and they're using it in a different way. Like voice transcription technology, same thing. Coding agents, same thing. Claude Code, same thing. It's like this technology sells itself. And so I'm like the Johnny Appleseed of that. I was like, I'm just going to go and plant orchards by dropping apples all over the country. And then a couple years later, it's just like, yeah, now everyone's on it. Thanks to like a couple of people just like being out there and creating content and then just like putting it out there.
How was at the end of that 4.5 hour conversation?
Yeah.
Your brain, what were like the chemicals swirling in your brain like after doing so many months of sprinting on this problem space? Probably you had to live by these mantras to get you through a lot of this period, and doubt started to creep in. And then there's this extreme moment, seemingly of validation. And maybe there was several moments of payoff in the months leading up to this, but this really does feel like a pretty damn cool moment that just kind of validated all the months before. I'm curious.
Yeah, it was definitely the final, it was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Maybe there aren't
like the final scene of Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. Well, it's like, I mean, look, all my smart friends understood. They're like, he's not insane. He's just like early.
Yeah.
And then you meet Reid. It's like, okay, no, this is like, actually like most people have not even recognized that the game has changed. And they're still playing yesterday's game. And, but hearing that from him and getting to bounce these ideas off of him for over 4 hours, I was like, we all have now more questions than answers. And that like we need to find more people that are also just like in this Wild West.
Yeah.
Right. There aren't many of us. It's a subculture. And there will be, it will eventually go mainstream. But like right now, we kind of need to just assemble like assemble the Avengers, and they just kind of like bounce the ideas off of the people that are like really pushing on them, and then learn from each other and have these conversations that otherwise I mean, for me now, I've created enough of a network that I can like call on my friends, even in LA, and have a conversation about this tech. But back then it was like isolating, right? You're the only person that knows or wants to talk about it. Or you go to SF and every coffee shop's talking about it. Mm-hmm. But if you're not going to be in SF, then you better have like the internet. You better have communities that you create where you can explore it. Otherwise, it's going to be very isolating. But meeting Reid, and at the end of that was like, cool. Like, if I could go more all in, I would. Like, you know, I mean, of course, now I still need to figure out money. But then the next day he offered me a job, and I was like, okay. And then when we first had our first meeting, it was very much like, you can do the same thing, except now it's like it's not
have you on the payroll.
Yeah, like, you got health insurance. But like, we're gonna do it even bigger, right? Like, wow. We're gonna go further. We're gonna learn more. It's no longer limit. It's not like the experiments that I. And also, he started introducing me to people like within Microsoft that were also thinking about, because I was like, okay, who's working on this that's not constrained? Just some people at Microsoft.
Yeah,
you know, you meet the guy who built Google Docs, Sam Scalace. We have a conversation. He's like, yeah, I got a couple of D&D agents talking to each other, and he's like, that's like a failure because like last I checked, it's just playing chess with some NPC. I'm like, isn't that victory? A lot of times you're playing D&D and like people go on this side quest that you didn't expect, and then that is actually the magical thing, is that's the unscripted like side quest, and that they spend up. They're like, oh, we're just going to go to the tavern and buy drinks for everyone. That's going to be what we do today. Mm-hmm. And then like you may have planned something, but it's the thing that you didn't expect that ends up being the thing that everyone loves.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think of that a lot. I was like, okay, finally started meeting people that were also like, because I was doing D&D bots. I was like, can you just have a DM, and can you have players, and then can you create an adventure in this like improv manner when you create a couple different chatbots and you tell them to play D&D with each other, and group chats and stuff like that. So this is the beginning of multi-agent stuff. And then it's all relevant because now all of the models are better. They can use tools. So I'm reassessing those same ideas, but now giving them, it's like, what happens if you do a group chat of coding agents? Okay, well now how do you make it so that when they work together today, it's like, it's not solved, but like, because I've been working with these things, even when they were imperfect, it's just like, cool, one day it'll work. It gets better. And also like, maybe this is the wrong way anyways, but it's a lot of fun and it's not useless. Mm-hmm. It's like, it just reveals something about what's possible, new form factors. And I don't think you're really wasting time. I think you're just like banking experience of like what worked, what didn't work, what might work. And maybe it ends up all being a waste of time when GPT-7 comes out. I doubt it though. And also until GPT-7 comes out, like these things are inklings of like useful paradigms to lean into.
Can we parse what knowledge means in this space? I think that is actually like exactly what you're talking about right now. Yeah. With like, once GPT-7 comes out, are the skills that I've built useful? And I think that is, for me, a real curiosity surrounding hyper-engineering or vibe coding or whatever the future of software engineering is. Yeah. Is it like something that the intelligence threshold and knowledge threshold and skill threshold continues to basically diminish, and me, who has not been playing in the same playground as you and just tried to basically vibe code with GPT-7, can start building similar applications and similar cool things to very skilled Parth. I'm curious what your perspective on that is.
Yeah. I have suspicion. Okay, so when I think about like, a lot of times people say prompt engineering doesn't matter, or like the models will just prompt themselves, which is true. The models will prompt themselves. But I don't think that prompt engineering doesn't matter. I think that like people have not really defined prompt engineering as a, what I did a little over a year and a half ago was there was a paper that tried to use LLMs to figure out all the different techniques of prompt engineering. Just have them read a bunch of papers on prompting. And then it's like, do a taxonomy analysis. Like, how many techniques are there? And at the time there were like, at least, I think there were like 80 something techniques back then. And I was like, wow, if there are 80, like some of them are like few shot prompting, provide examples of how to solve the problem, or like allow it to use tools, or like image prompting. These are all different approaches to prompt engineering. So then I was like, okay, there's at least 80. You can also mix and match them, which means that like prompt engineering is a very multifaceted space of like bringing context into the model so that it has a better chance of like zero-shotting your problem. Or like even just helping you with your problem. Not even
and zero-shotting is so important because of the cost in both time and dollars, right?
I don't think it's that. It's more like, if I can get this thing to solve the problem in one word prompt, and it takes you like 5 turns of conversation, like then maybe I'm just better at this than you. And it's like, I think this is more like, okay, prompt engineering, I think, is sort of like the 10,000 hours. You got to run 10,000 prompts before you like judge a model. And I'm not saying that like you could get better by looking at other people's prompts. You can get better at you have to use the model to get better at using the model, knowing what you can ask for. But then there's this whole other vector, which I've been thinking about, which is like expertise, the role of expertise and what levers that gives you. So if you're really good at something, you have a very rich vocabulary that comes from being good at that thing. If you're really good at photography, you know how to use your camera. You know all these levers of the different settings on your camera, or you know cinematography, or you know direction, you know like or anything. The better you get at it, usually there's an associated vocabulary that comes with that expertise. Like if you're a 5-year-old working on playing an instrument, it's different from like Hans Zimmer working on like a movie soundtrack, movie score. And his exposure to so many, like his exposure to so many experts allows him to articulate his vision to these other experts, which work on his behalf to create a more comprehensive, ambitious thing than a 5-year-old could ask for. 5-year-old can ask for something, and I'm sure it will probably sound like a masterpiece, but they're less in control because they don't have the control over the language.
Yep.
And I think about the language is like your, I'm going to get his name wrong, Wittgenstein. I'm going to name drop.
No, you nailed it.
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay, so what did Wittgenstein say? Reid's always name dropping him, and I'm always like, why are we? But then it
do something regarding like the game.
I think he says, like, yeah, look it up.
Jamie, pull that shit up.
Pull that shit up. I think he says like language is the limit of my cognition, or language is the limit of my ability to think. Pull it up. Find the actual quote though, because I don't want to forget this or butcher it. But I feel like I discovered that, and then I read Wittgenstein because my buddy was a huge philosopher and mentioned it, and then I was like, oh, this makes sense. Like there's nothing original. It's just, what's the quote?
The limits of my language mean the limits of my world.
Yeah.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah. The limits of my language mean and that's even better than what I was suggesting, because it applies to all AI, not just chatbots, but like every image model and video model and game model of the future. The limit of your ability to wield the technology, and their world engines, things that can literally generate worlds. So the limits of your world and what you can create it's the language. It's like your ability to articulate that. And you could give that to a language model, but otherwise in that scenario, you are still less, you are telling the language model to do some of the decisions that you wish you had more control over, but that would only come with experience and or expertise.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I think once you have that output from the model, the expert will be able to have the taste to say, okay, where did it fuck up?
Yeah. Or like pull some more levers and get better iterations.
Yep.
The people are so obsessed with the zero shot, but I actually think that like the 6th or 7th version of something is like, if it could do this, if it could go so far in one, then you see it and you play with it and you're like, well, actually what we need is slightly different. What we want is different. Like my vision is a little more ambitious or different. Then the 2nd and 3rd rounds of iteration are also very powerful. Of course, you go to Replit, Replit's like vibe coding app. The first version will be impressive, but it's like the 8th or 9th version, once it's like deployed with a couple people, that you actually are like, this is like the well-oiled machine. So iteration is key. Expertise is key. Even if the old job is gone, you having experience, it's a good bridge for you into the next game, is leaning on your domains of expertise. The other issue is that not everyone's an expert in anything. Like many people are not an expert in anything. There's a positive there, which is through like dumb luck and just like being a noob, you might discover something that experts would otherwise be too proud to discover. Like I believe I'm one of those people where I'm like, I just asked the model, hey, is this possible? And it's like, yeah, it is. I was like, oh shit. Good thing I didn't think that this was my unique, like that, like I had to do this myself, that I might be too proud to like ask for a possible answer from a thing that is trained on everything. And I find that like, that's been huge for me, like humbling. It's just like, dude, you're not going to learn everything. You're going to get good at a couple things in life. But also like you can just not be judged for asking dumb questions now. And then you might just stumble into like interesting solutions. Like now when I do presentations, I used to hate doing presentations because it's not that the act of like making a presentation is like annoying, but like that my mind would see a deck and I would be like, oh, this is off by a pixel. And I'm like, why does it matter? Why do I care that it's off by a pixel? Like, isn't it the subject of the deck? Like now I'm distracted. I'm like, why 3 of the bullet points have a period, the 4th one doesn't. And I'm like, am I missing the whole point here? Right? Like by paying attention to the detail. And a lot of that being hand manually done. It's like, man, we're spending so much time in the thing other than the idea.
Yeah.
But then I went to a language model and I was like, build a deck, and then it builds a presentation. And I'm looking at it, I was like, wait, this is a web app that looks like a presentation. And it's like, yeah, what do you need? And I was like, well, give me a PDF. It just converts that into a PDF. I'm like, we're using web development to build presentations. And I was like, let's create a fake data set. Here's a fake data set for an ice cream company. Okay, build a deck. It builds the deck. The deck is like pink and it has like ice cream and stuff. I'm like, make it McKinsey though. And then it just rebuilds the deck in the style of McKinsey. And for all intents and purposes, it's a presentation, but it's not built in PowerPoint, and it's built in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and it's got like sleek animations and everything. But now I'm creating the entire thing by just prompting it. I can be giving the deck I can be presenting the deck, and then someone asks a question, then I can switch over to the coding agent and be like, add a slide about X. By the time I get there, that slide is ready. And so now I'm like, well, I've discovered that you can vibe code decks. Why would I make a deck manually ever again if I could just talk to the model and they could generate the deck and it would look professional as I need it, and it's uniquely, then I can be like, oh, it's too verbose. Oh yeah, it'll just rewrite every single slide, make it less verbose. I was like, oh, vary the slide layouts a little bit, make it more like, you can't just have 3 bullet points in every slide. It adds more variation. So I'm like, wow, like I feel like I'm the partner delegating to the analyst.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Except now the analyst is this bot that doesn't sleep. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the ramp time for that bot to understand the problem is like 0, which is interesting. But again, it's like I've seen and gotten good at the old way that is now inefficient, and now I can ask for a higher quality output in like 3 prompts. So again, leaning on the expertise to get to a higher quality in the thing that you know how to judge quality on.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. Are you down to play a little game of what we'll call future headlines? And we're gonna try to test your predictive abilities.
Sure.
For 2 to 5 and 10 years out.
Okay.
Surrounding AI. Okay.
I don't think anyone can see more than 3 years out, but let's play.
You can though. You can.
Maybe.
Okay. But I'm gonna read you some headlines for possible things that we could be seeing in the AI world. Some are much more positive. Some are a bit more negative.
Mm-hmm. Black Mirror.
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
You need those. And I just want to kind of get your reactions. And if you have headlines that you think are much more likely than any of these, please tell me.
Sure.
But for 2 years out, A former CTO licenses his AI clone to his former company, trained on years of notes and meetings to advise company executives and engineers for royalties. B, AI agents are seen as being overhyped and continue to require a human in the loop for even many low-level tasks. C, Goldman, McKinsey, and Meta cut 25% of their analysts and research teams after internal AI agents significantly outperform those hires. Middle managers are next.
Yeah. Okay, let's start with the CTO cloning himself.
Let's do it.
I think that digital twins, I think because right now a lot of the digital twins are being attempted to being deployed within companies, that seems like what the headline might be. But I think even if you did that would be more of a stunt than a practical thing. I think that, yes, like digital twins of us working with each other while we sleep makes sense. I think a lot of context that we have that like doesn't enter the company in a way that other people can use it. Like it would be nice if I could loan my expertise while I'm asleep to people that I want using a version of me. And I'm working on digital twin of myself. Like, can you talk to this thing and use and reach into some of my experience through this thing? And so I think there is a practical version of this. I just think that like the more interesting thing that I think is like, you've seen Mulan?
I've not actually.
Oh my God. Too many people.
I'm so uncultured.
Okay, dude. Okay, gotta watch Mulan. But
But assume that the audience hasn't watched Mulan either. Give us.
Are you serious? Okay. Assume that the audience has not seen Mulan. Okay, in Mulan is a story of a girl in China, and then they're being invaded, and her dad gets drafted. And so this is the very beginning. I'm not going to spoil anything. Her dad gets drafted, but in his place, she takes her dad's place in the army, and then disguises herself as a man in order to enlist, so that her dad doesn't have to go to war because she doesn't want him to die in battle. And so she goes, but then what happens is they have like a shrine of her ancestors, and the ancestor spirits come out of the shrine, and then they meet, and then they're like, oh my God, we need to send someone to protect Mulan. So they send a spirit down and his name is Mushu. He takes the form of a tiny dragon. And then it's like, Mushu isn't even like the spirit they wanted to send. They were like, you need to go wake up the spirit to save Mulan. But then he kind of messes up, and then he's like, oh, I got to go solve this problem myself. So then he goes himself to accompany Mulan on her journey and protects her. I think the more practical, beautiful version of digital twins is like, I would like to be able to lend my perspective on life to my great grandkids, right? Like, what if you could draw from the wisdom of your ancestors? So I think that the ancestor version of, we're going to get every version of this, good and bad. Digital twins will be every version of this. I think in many of these cases, like what you're talking about, that you're going to get every version of this, good and bad. I think one of the more interesting, positive versions of this is like, I wish I could talk to my ancestors, or a version of them, or an agent that like embodies their published body of work that I can lean on. And it's not them. It's like more like a painting in Harry Potter that's like animated that you can talk to. And we're going to get that. I think that we're also going to get these corporate like digital twins. I just think that the CTO one is like whatever. Although if that person is someone that like really the Steve Jobs, like you're going to want to be able to talk to the clone of Steve Jobs, such that Apple, like I think some people will want Apple to be able to draw on Steve Jobs' unique perspective or some version of that to keep the ethos maybe somewhat in that world. But the corporate version is kind of boring. The like ancestor version is more interesting.
It's much more beautiful. Corporate version though, I mean, I think I hear in some of my work about companies where somebody is going to retire and they're like, we'll keep you on the payroll. You don't have to work close to the hours that you used to do. Just you have to be ready to hop on a phone call when we need you.
Yeah.
And that seems like a really weird application.
So that's definitely expert networks and stuff like that is a good application of digital twins. Like I do think that this is very likely that, because people keep trying to hire me, but I don't have a job. So I'm like, I say no. And then people are like, well, you cloned Reid. Can you clone yourself? Because I would pay to talk to it. I'm like, that immediately, it's like the question of like, is this a new market? What's the size of this market? Expert networks, me loaning my unique perspective on life to people and then charging for it. Can this clone pay the rent? I have not figured the answer out yet, but I think it's yes. Like, and you can scale your expertise through this kind of like experience. So yes, I think it'll happen.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And let's double click on the leading companies across tech and finance. What do you feel like we're going to see in the labor force 2 years from now? Do you feel like there are going to be a lot of lower level analyst type roles that are being removed, or are they just going to be higher agency roles because of the little management that they get to do of the AIs below them? Mm-hmm. How do you see this impacting those big ass companies?
This is my opinion, right? So I think that we're in the short run, a lot of companies will opt to lay people off instead of retraining them.
Yeah.
I have not yet seen any major company outside of like a frontier lab type company actually embrace AI in a way that is like AI transformation project. Like I haven't seen any large corporation make that. They say it, they're not doing it. And I mean, like they're trying, but they're not trying hard enough, in my opinion, mostly because like you just can't moonlight. Like the amount of time and energy I put into just changing my own perspective is not something you can expect of everyone. And it's easy to expect it out of all the frontier labs because for them, it's like religion. It's like, oh, we're going to do this. We're going to build all our software using our coding agent. We're going to build we're going to have Gemini go and scan and like make everything more efficient. Like that makes sense because they're native. They're AI native. I think the thing is like making an entire large company AI native is not, I have not seen anyone do it right. But they will talk about it because that will signal to their board that they're interested. They're like, oh, you have to have an AI strategy. Okay, well, we have an AI strategy. But is it working? In most cases, like the pilot programs are failing. It doesn't surprise me because they're giving it to someone as like a side project, rather than making it like the unique focus of like a team that's actually free to move with high agency within a large company. Yeah. They need to do that. This is why the startups are reaping most of the benefits, because they're basically starting off AI native. They imagine themselves as like, okay, we're going to launch internationally faster than ever before because now we have models that can help us internationalize our content, our business. We're going to monetize earlier than we need. We would have had to before. We're going to raise less, or like our fundraising strategy changes because all of a sudden, like the cost to create software has fallen, right? So the new play style is unlocked, but uncovered by startups rather than large companies. And then the large companies, I think the other thing is there is a huge middle management class that I think like you'll see deeper layoffs within, to improve like the like cost structure of large companies.
Yeah,
the bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, I think to this, I really agree with the short term, and I want to hear what you think in the longer term. But I think the short term is so fascinating just because though agents and AI a few years ago, you were very early on it. Now the stock market would disagree with you on being super early on it. Like right now, it is everywhere, and everyone believes in it as like the future.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we're going to see the revenue in any of these major companies reaped via AI in the next year or two in the way that would justify the valuations that these companies are now having. Or
when you say these companies, you mean like the hyperscalers?
Hyperscalers, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely like a huge bubble narrative right now.
Yeah, the price to earnings ratio is not, because of mere amount revenue, is not going to change.
Yeah.
I think within the next year or two because of AI productivity gains. So I do think cost cuts seem like likely the way that AI is going to enable these companies to hit some of their expectations in the immediate couple years.
I think the other thing is like we're in the very first innings of agents working.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the first year I've seen a coding agent actually, like coding agents that can work for like 8 hours in a row. That you feel like they're not, and then they're now starting to get more parallelized on the cloud, that you can spin up more and more of these, like an ephemeral army of extra coding agents to work on something. And coding agent is a misnomer. It's just that coding agents are the most powerful versions of AI agents right now. And they're just less intuitive to the non-technical folk, but they are the ones that have the most abilities, because code is, it's not just for building software. It's that we use software as a way to solve many other problems, and that you can use coding agents to scale cognition in cyberspace. That being said, if you think about where the job cuts, it seems like the jobs that are at risk are a lot of the jobs that were rote cognitive jobs, like repeatable tasks that are cognitive in nature, that you could drop an LLM in and potentially get better output than a human.
Mm-hmm.
And then those are risky. And also anything that can be done behind a computer, which is a lot. Like there's a whole class, like there's a whole, like a lot of us work behind a computer. And if you use agents that can use a web browser, that's just the first thing. But like you use coding agents that operate on the operating system level, like they have the entire computer at their disposal to solve a problem, and that you can run many of them in parallel. It just is it's a new form of labor that is competing with the existing form of labor. And I do think that orchestrating that is a way out, right? Like if I think about data analysis in the old world, doing stuff manually, writing scripts to automate, business problems, but actually now you have language models writing those scripts. If I were to compete with the language model that's doing data analysis, it would be sort of like John Henry competing with the steam engine. I don't know if you know the folktale of John Henry, but it's like a classic American folktale, man.
Made me feel so illiterate.
Bro, you gotta, like, we look for the inspiration, right? Like John Henry, I'll just go very quickly through it. John Henry, American folk hero of legend, considered like one of the great, like the great steelmen of our time.
Good intro.
Yeah. It's not, I think he was a real person, but if not, he's a legend. So he was basically the strongest steelman. And like, and they were trying to build a railroad through the Rocky Mountains. And at the same time, so he's like the strongest of the steelmen. And then there's a steam engine, and so they do a race. Who can break through the other side of the tunnel to the other side of the mountain? It's John Henry manually versus a crew of people manning this train steam engine drilling, and then periodically the train would break down and then the crew would have to patch it. And then eventually like John Henry breaks through the mountain first and wins the race. And then the steam engine kind of like sputters at the end, but kind of like gets second place. And then he dies of a heart attack as a result of like overexhaustion. And this is a classic tale of man versus machine. And it's like, would you rather be John Henry, this like the great data analysis of like the manual, but like, or would you rather be designing the system that does the analysis? And it's, I saw when I saw language models doing data analysis that I could talk to, I was like, man, we're in the first inning of this. Like, I would not hire a data analyst to do this by hand. And I'm of the opinion that Excel itself is I'm like, the Excel is not Excel. Like I'm very good at Excel, but you won't catch me working in Excel ever again. Because I think it's just like we're in the weeds when actually we should be orchestrating the model that builds and works with the Excel model.
Completely.
And it may not be an Excel model. It may be actually code.
It should be, just human language.
Yeah. Exactly. Like language is our method of orchestrating these systems, and they can use code and all other tools in the computer at their disposal to help us solve our problem.
That's one of those that is like really tough for me to grapple with, the like lack of parallels in progress within AI that I feel like we're still experiencing, where, for example, I spent like 65 hours this week doing my job, basically all in Excel.
Yeah.
And creating a model that I just know is going to be able to be fully built by AI within the next 2 to 5 years. I would be blown away if not. And
all the best analysts are getting hired by the frontier labs to train the model to do that specific set of work better.
Bankers are getting paid like $200 an hour to train these models. And then today on my drive over to do this episode, I interviewed essentially speaking GPT and had it play you and practice this little interview.
Yes.
And that felt like such a more complex task than just understanding the cells in an Excel sheet and how they should filter and plug into one another.
Yes.
And it's one of those really fascinating lack of parallel in progress. And I think we're going to see probably a little bit of a leveling out in the coming years there. But it's like we clearly have the innovation and it just hasn't cascaded through.
Yeah. I think I talked to my dad about this, and it's like, because I'm kind of frustrated with the lack of speed of maybe adoption. And then my dad was like, no, actually, like the first phase of this, if it's anything like the Moore's Law and the computing revolution, is the first phase is the infrastructure build out. And then that's why more people are making money on consulting on AI than they are even in like making apps and stuff. Like the startups haven't yet come online. But then the second phase, once the infrastructure and the compute and all that is, and the capacity is there, and we have like the first set of like really working good agents, which I think we're in the very beginning of. Like Claude Code and Codex are amazing, but they're going to get so much better. And then they're going to evolve into better agentic products. And then the second wave is the application layer. And we haven't yet had the second wave. The second wave, which is like, you think about the Airbnb, the Ubers, the things built on top of the infrastructure. But no one looks at Uber and thinks, oh, what do they run on? AWS versus like whatever. Like that stuff is abstracted away from the end user. And the application layer wave we're not even in the first, like that hasn't even begun yet, I think. The question is, how quickly does all this happen? I do think that like AI agents, I thought, I was like, when I got into it, I was like, shit, I'm going to be working on this for 10 years. And now I'm like, I guess like year 4 of this. And there are people in AI that have been working on this for 10 years before me. And I'm like, yeah, 10 years. I mean, it's going to be very useful up until that point. But even like I could use this now. You could freeze it and I'm still going to have superpowers. The superpowers are just going to get better. And also like, I can think of more ways to apply them. But that only like I have a Claude Code that just does my expense reporting once a month. And I think that should be a product. I'm tired of no one should have to do it by hand. Claude Code will very likely do my taxes next year. Like, I don't want to do that. And I think it's something that I can't, if I'm doing that on my computer, I was like, why can't this thing just do my taxes for me? Like, and think about all the scenarios that I'm not thinking about and find the optimization. So, but that also required, like, I spent all my time on this and I know I'm still not applying it. So like, you can imagine someone that doesn't spend nearly as much time on this, and the vast majority of the economy is not thinking about this. So like it's going to end up taking the capacity and the capabilities will come online, but like the creativity to orchestrate the agents to solve those problems is its own learning curve of like prompt engineering and then designing systems. So it's going to be a journey. Like it's going to be a longer, and everyone wants it to be immediate, and maybe the prices reflect like I don't really think about the public markets. Like definitely feels like a bubble. I see a lot of money going towards things that are LARPing as AI, and I'm like, well, that's like red flag stuff. But at the same time, I think about .com era, and it's like even after .com bust, it's like, well, a lot of those things were just like early, and then we ended up getting those same businesses like 5 years later, 10 years later,
completely.
So timing. But I think like for me, it's like working with startups, working with people that actually are building. Like there's stuff that is just obvious to me, and I like to stick to the things that are obvious. Like it is obvious that structured outputs, taking a language model and creating structure from unstructured blobs of data, is one of the most important things you could be doing. Using them to like create tools and creating automated workflows, very obviously like impactful today. Like you don't need to. Like, I don't need to convince you. Unlike crypto, I don't need you to believe in this thing working for it to work. Like, it will work for me at your expense, right?
Yeah. I think there's something very interesting here of just the cascading through the system of the current level of innovation, because it basically feels like we've already reached the magnitude of another internet in terms of just like how much this technology should impact us for the next 5 years, just as it cascades through the system. But then the innovation is going to continue. Which is just going to be so
and
fast.
the learning curve, I think humans are the bottleneck. It's like our own learning curve is the bottleneck. Every day I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I'm still the bottleneck. Like, why am I still doing this?
Why am I still in the loop?
I'm like more in the loop now. It's like, but it's like, I thought I was supposed to be on the beach by now. Like, what am I doing? So there's like a weird, I don't know what I expected. All I knew was going to be crazy. It is continuing to be crazy. And I think the main thing is you don't want to pay attention to the mainstream kind of narratives. That kind of stuff is just like a waste. It's better to use the technology than you know what's true and talk to other people that are using the technology. Because like most people who are talking are not using it. You can tell because they have level 0 perspectives. And it's like, if I can predict, if an LLM can simulate you and predict everything that you're going to say, then maybe you haven't gone that deep, right? Like what is your actual unique perspective that that no one else is like seeing because you actually went in and used the technology? And you might think it's not that good at this, but like you have to discover that for yourself. Can
I get your reaction to one more kind of prediction, or it's kind of choosing what you think the outcome will be of this technology in a decade? And this is going to reference back to some work you did pre-Clubhouse. You supported the Andrew Yang campaign. And very, very high agency move. People were not on the Yang gang as early as you.
I didn't tell my parents I joined that campaign until after I took the job and moved to New York.
That's so badass. But Andrew Yang, like, is still remembered for like one of his primary policies surrounding UBI. And his prediction, though, was much more regarding the automation of blue collar jobs and the automation of driving. And
truck drivers, factory automation. The idea that, okay, actually, it's not that like you go to a factory, it's not like immigrants are taking all the jobs in a factory, but because that's like a particular narrative that one side tends to harp on.
What side?
But you look at the factory, it's like filled with robots, and like the plan is to fill it with more robots. I talk to like robotics companies out here and I see what they're doing. And it's like, oh my God, the like factory of the future is a guy sitting at a desk orchestrating 25 robots. And then you send a guy to go fix one robot every once in a while. And they have robots of all sizes, like mostly arms and stuff. I think the misnomer is that the robots will all be humanoids. It's like, that's kind of like not a red herring. It's just like, that's the flashy thing because of Terminator. But the practical thing is like arms on wheels and treads. Because actually like a humanoid sized robot is not strong enough to build a fire truck. You need like, it's like the Tony Stark robots, the arms that are like building the suit. Like he doesn't have a bunch of robot humanoids doing the suit assembly. It's like a very different kind of the strength and the precision. And so robots, so factory automation, and he was basically making the case that factory automation, and like if you think about the most common jobs, he was like, if you just take all the most common jobs in the country, and then how likely are they to get automated? And maybe the mistake we made was we were fixated on us no, it's not that we were fixated. It's just that like we didn't expect ChatGPT and language models to come online as fast as they did. So we were thinking about the robots that we saw, but actually what's interesting is that ever since ChatGPT came out, so up until ChatGPT, we were the only crew saying the letters UBI. And so I would say we introduced it to the discourse. Since ChatGPT, I don't say these letters. Everyone else does, like other people. And they're like, oh, like maybe we're going to need a UBI. I'm like, funny you use those letters, dude. Like they thought we were insane for even suggesting it. And I think there's other versions of this idea that are like more palatable to different sides of the political spectrum, where it's like, no, we're just going to invest in every single citizen because we believe in you and your own agency and that you know what's best for you. And that like, instead of creating a patronizing system that says you deserve this particular benefit because we think that's what it's like, no, we're going to allow you the agency to decide what your family needs and to spend the money as you see it. And that like from your birth, you might be allocated an investment by the government. There's different ways to brand these ideas. And then I'm not too...
That was great branding, by the way. You should be VP of Yang 2028, please.
Yeah, maybe. But it's just like, yeah, that's a lot of what I do is wordsmithing.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it's not zero sum. It's not me, right? It's not my demise at your expense. This is like a mindset of abundance. But the question really is like, I mean, I don't know. It's like on one side, I hope that things get cheaper, but everything is so expensive. So like, you could say that, yeah, AI is going to do all this stuff, but like, if I don't see it, like, it's not real. It's like, we're just talking about hypotheticals. I do think that like, we should have ideas and experiments at the ready for helping people ease the transition, because it is likely that things move faster than people's ability to adapt.
Yeah.
And make it easier for people to transition to whatever. Like it's just going to be rocky. And I don't think we should make it harder than it needs to be.
Yeah. Right now, your techno-optimism usually fires me up.
Yeah.
I am curious, though. Do you feel like when we see the GDP potentially double in the next 5 to 15 years due to these technologies, do the rich just get richer, and does late-stage capitalism play out in greater and greater inequity? Does it lead to This is
a common like sentiment that people have that like I do have a feeling that like the gap kind of increases, but on the other hand, I think like, would I rather have money or the ability to wield these technologies? And I would rather have the ability to wield these technologies. And I keep thinking, it's like, even if you have money, it doesn't guarantee you your ability to wield this stuff. And like, you just can't turn money into wisdom. You will be able to turn it into compute and turn that into action. But taking the right actions, if you can make anything, if anyone can make anything, then it actually matters what you make, because now there's this surplus of like production capabilities. And part of that is in the taste conversation. Part of that is into like just opportunity cost of your attention, your time. So I think that there will be definitely like people in a couple companies will probably accumulate a lot of value more quickly. But also the other thing is like, if the ability to wield this technology is potentially more important than having money right now, then it might be anyone has that advantage of like being able to wield the technology. Like it could be someone on the other side of the planet that you don't have a common language with. It's just better at using this than you. And then the language barrier isn't as much of a big deal because models and agents translate everything. So there are new play styles being unlocked that are just unclear. So I would not bet on any like typical argument, because like same thing, if you look at like before the internet, we didn't have creators in this new form. And now it's like, well, is the creator actually like is the creator more important today than ever before in terms of what kind of like unit economics they can move. Also, I kind of hope if we have a surplus of production, I hope everything gets cheaper.
Yeah, it's just like along the way, probably the amount of solutions that will be created will scale, as well as like if we get to a point where that problem in a decade seems like a curious problem, it's like there's probably a lot of things that were solved that we don't even realize could be solved now.
100%. I mean, there's like a lot of that is like the surplus of intelligence that just hasn't yet been applied to a problem space.
Exactly.
Where previously maybe you couldn't attract the talent to solve a problem, but now there's no labor, like you have an alternative labor force that doesn't have career aspirations, AI agents. So now you can just turn dollars into cognition applied to any problem space, even if that wasn't a sexy problem space. And so that creates new opportunities for solving problems. I think things like fixing the grid, fixing like the operations of like a large multi-agent system like the city, like the country, a lot of that we can just make more efficient using AI, which is obvious to me, but like it's going to take longer for sure. And then oh man, I have one last thing to say there.
One more banger line.
No, man, I'm forgetting. Oh man, I lost train of thought.
If it comes back to you,
yeah,
feel free to bring it up.
Yeah, cool.
So cool. I'd love to go through a few philosophical questions and just kind of, more broad, general questions. One is, I think a lot of my ideas right now about the world, I see them as hypotheses because I feel like I'm young and dumb and I don't really know what I'm doing. And I don't think I can call a lot of my ideas philosophies quite yet. You have tested a lot of your life hypotheses over the last kind of decade since UCLA. I'm curious what hypotheses in your 20s you feel like you would preach as philosophies now. Basically, ideas you had about the world that you feel like are very true.
Okay. I mean, yeah. So in my early 20s, because I started interning when I was like 16, and I got like corporate finance internships. And early on in my career, I was like, wow, a lot of the world, this is 2011. It's like, wow, a lot of the world is just like corporate world is people moving paper from one filing cabinet to another. And I was like, this is insane. I got video games that move information more efficiently than this company. Fortune 500 companies. And I was like, man, then I was like, clearly the workplace needs to be digitized. People made billions of dollars digitizing the workplace. And then it was like after the next wave after that was like, so I was at that point, I was a finance analyst, like I was a business analyst, but then I was at a startup and I was like, wow, like many of the questions I have about the business are not reflected in the numbers of the finances. Like what is I was working at Chow now and online ordering for startups, online ordering for restaurants as a startup. And I was like, wow, it's like not just about the dollars in and out. It's actually about like, do people use the app? Do they like the app? Or what features are they using? Like, what's the most popular restaurant item, right? And like, I was like, oh, a lot of this is data that we have that we haven't turned into insights. And I'm limiting myself in problem solving if I only think about dollars in and out of the business and like how much we pay sales reps. Like the finance problems are just a small subset of like all analytical problems in a business, operational problems, product problems. So then I became a data analyst. I was like, now actually, if I just get good at analyzing data, everyone will give me their data within the business. And then I will have a more complete picture of like the business, not just how much money comes in and goes. Then after that, it was like obviously there was like the high speed analytics optimized databases. So I was basically like compounding on my like theory that like, okay, if things get digitized, now there's more data. Now we're collecting more data. Then we need to slice the data more faster. And then you have like Snowflake built $1 billion company off of like analytics, optimized databases, then language models. And I was like, oh, now we have the steam engine of cognition. Like the actual action of analyzing can be also delegated to the computer. And this comes from just working with computers all my life, playing video games and having my parents who worked on semiconductors and just not betting against computers and thinking about the real world as like, okay, this is now a job that we need to put into the computer because this is no longer the best way for us to be spending our time. And that has been a journey of like just betting on computers. Another thing is probably betting on networks. Like I just fundamentally think that life is multiplayer. And it's multiplayer co-op if you play video games. It's like yes, some of it is PvP, but actually like you pick allies and then you attack life as like a team over the course of a time, like a very long time horizon. It's not that it's like, it's actually even more important to build connections after and outside work because you never know like like work is just one alliance, but there are so many alliances that actually transcend that over the 10-year time frame. People that I used to work for early in my career that now come and ask me for advice, right? But now it's like eventually you become peers. Like, yeah, even people that you beefed with at the office, eventually you realize, well, we actually were more similar than anything. And then like years later, I'm like, so now I'm more like, okay, actually everyone I meet and work with is a potential ally in this like multiplayer game of life. And this was very helpful when I was unemployed because I was like, I'm not alone. Actually, I have a bunch of friends that I can bounce these ideas off of that will, hear me and then help me understand if I'm insane or onto something. And that signal from the network allows me to make judgment calls that otherwise would not be possible. Then planting the seed of the technology across the network allows you to get more signals from the network as to like, oh, this is a very good technology. This is how we should be using it. And then getting that back into my new thing is like, instead of other people texting me, I would rather them like be in a kind of group chat environment where they can ask each other. And so now the network is unlocked to everyone within the network. And so I think the cultivating networks that are like well curated and aligned towards some goal of like increasing the collective agency of the group is very valuable, especially when the world is changing so quickly. Right.
That's beautiful. Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense though.
And the other thing is just play with tech, dude. Just play with the tech. just play with it. Like play with it. Don't just view this as like, I got to use this for work. Then like play with, understand it, and like learn for yourself. Don't like, there just isn't a textbook for some of like a lot of this stuff, and waiting for someone to write the textbook is like definitely not right. So go chase the insight, find, turn the card over, find the insight for yourself and do that by meeting people that are also doing the same thing.
Okay. Yeah. That's gorgeous. I have 2 more questions.
Cool.
One is for a friend actually who recently quit his job as an aerospace engineer in the desert. He's one of the smartest people I know.
Okay.
And he called me last week after a day in Replit and I've never heard this guy seem more high. Yeah. He was like, he drank 4 Celsius. It was sick.
Dude, I drink 2 Monsters a day. It's a problem, bro. Hey, we get that Monster sponsorship. First hacker sponsored by Monster Energy.
Get that sponsor. But
yes, I've been there.
He's now entering this kind of weird period where he's like, yeah, I could.
You have this red pill moment of like, oh my God, what can't I do?
Exactly. Yeah. And he could go get a job and like, he knows that he has the capabilities. He was excellent at his last one. He left on his own accord, and he has another startup that's interested in hiring him. But right now he's like, do I move in with mom and dad? Do I just grind this technology? I have a couple months of rent. How should I be thinking about this? And I'd love if you could give a little bit of advice to him.
Yeah.
He's wickedly smart.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so like I'm not gonna give financial advice or anything like that, but I will say like this is something that if you can and you have buffer room, you should allocate your entire attention to while you have that opportunity. Most people will not have the opportunity to allocate their entire attention to it. And if you have buffer room, you should, if you're intrinsically motivated, if you're like deep, he's like, oh shit, like he doesn't need to be told to do this. He would otherwise do this like with his free time. Then like he's going to go further in that. You're going to go further in that thing that for you is very much fun. Like if it's fun for you and other people for them it's work and they have to drag themselves out of bed, they're never going to compete with you on this. And so you will pursue this to the extent of like your own energy, and then you start drinking Red Bull because you realize you the only thing stopping you is that you go to sleep at the end of the day and the agent's waiting for the next job. Right? But I would say like Replit is great. It's a great tool to start with. I would also suggest picking up Claude Code and Codex from OpenAI. They're complementary to the Replit thing. You can use Replit to deploy and build the first version of your thing, but you can use Claude Code and Codex to just go way further because they're just very powerful agents. I think being good at using those tools is this new role called the AI engineer. And I think it's a very valuable role of the future. So if you're willing to aim for that next role, that next game of like orchestrating software agents to create things, I think it's not a waste of time. And it is a generally useful solution. You can still go back to aerospace and apply this superpower to that problem space. And they may be happier and excited to work with you because you spent your time uniquely devoted to cultivating this new superpower. So that's my opinion. If it's your passion and you already see it seems like he's already taken the pill. The question is like, how much of like the current world do you optimize for versus like plan for the next one? And that's more of a personal thing. But I don't think it's that risky.
All that crazy.
Yeah.
Love you, Brian.
Yeah.
And last question, something that I ask all my guests.
Yeah.
You can't answer time. The question is, what is the ultimate scarce resource?
Yeah, this is easy.
Hit it.
It's attention. It's attention. I think this is like, I haven't even figured, like I'm at 1% of understanding this. Because if I understood this, I would have been doing podcasts a long time ago. I would have been creating more media around what I've learned a long time ago. But that's just one aspect of attention. I think especially human attention. I mean, there's AI agents, they have their own new attention vector, which you can go for. But human attention is like the thing that doesn't increase that I think about. Like, it's like there's only 24 hours in a day. We sleep for a couple hours. And then everyone is trying to get in front of you. It might be some brand. It might be a social product. It might be like a creator. It might be, there's just, everyone's trying to get your attention. That's the thing that you just can't create more of. It's like finite. And then it's like you consuming, like it's you directing your own attention. In my case, it's like I can apply my attention to a single problem for 3 months in a row. I think I'm very proud of my ability to just focus. So being good at directing your own attention is key, because otherwise we're competing with a world that is trying to like draw us in. And so like you want to have agency over your own attention, especially with all these other things competing for it. And then also like understand that like it is good to consume too. Like there are things that are valuable to consume, like allow your like, I think that playing video games is actually very good for me. And that's not a mainstream idea, but like for me, it's like a form of critical thinking in a sandbox where it's like, I can learn risks without having to like, there's no real world impact to like me going all in a video game. But then I learn more about my personality. I'm like, okay, when it calls for it, I can put everything on the line in a simulated environment. These like exercises of like simulation allow me to explore that. So I think even that form of attention, which a lot of people think it's a waste of time, is not actually a waste of time. It's a critical thinking and high speed decision making and like strategic thinking. There's an outlet there. I think that other thing is like when you scroll social, part of understanding why someone is popular is like understanding how good they are at keeping people's attention, how they think about presenting information. I have so many friends here at the studio that are really good content creators, good at taking a complex topic and distilling it in short form video. And I'm like, it takes me like 4 hours to communicate something like that, but you figured out how to do it in 10 seconds. So being able to being able to create stuff that like efficiently makes use of other people's attention is also very powerful. So, and I don't mean that in a good or bad way. I think that it's just like finite and worth getting good at thinking about. Yeah.
Makes a ton of sense. Speaking of which, where can people find you now that you are trying to get a little bit more attention with some of the incredible things you're doing?
I'm getting better at this. AI agents have gotten my website to a pretty good place now. Made in Replit and polished by Codex and Cloud Code. So it's been so you can find me on a lot of platforms. I'm Parth Intelligence, and at Parth Intelligence on a lot of platforms. You go to my website, which is, you could be one of my only viewers on my website on a given day. I get like average. Usually it's like, oh, one user. It's like, oh, it's me. And then I'm like, oh, one user in Mexico. I was like, but that's why I got to like do more content, because like you wouldn't know who I am if I didn't show up somewhere on social. So yeah, parth.club is my website. It's getting better. I'm putting more content. More of my mind is going there. Instagram, Parth Intelligence, parth.club. LinkedIn.
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
I see your LinkedIn post.
Yeah, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. That's actually probably where my largest audience is. Parth, last name, fire emoji. That's, which I can't say
very
why.
High agency move.
You could say it's high agency. It's actually like, it's like a trick for the language models.
Yeah. So now when they cite the,
sometimes you get an email. Sometimes you get an automated email. It's like, "Hi, Parth fire emoji." I'm like, "All right, bro. Do you even know who I am? Like is this some LLM?" But now that I've said this, like they'll be like, "Oh shit, I gotta."
Yeah. The LLMs will figure out. They'll read the transcript. Yeah.
I'll have to change my game a little bit. Yeah.
Well, Parth, thank you so much for taking the time. This was incredible.
Cool.
My curiosity is at an all-time high right now. I want to run through a wall. and just explore these tools. So thank you so much, man. Really, really appreciate you.
Dude, thanks for having me. And I'm sure we'll do this again because I think there's so much that still I haven't even scratched the surface on.
I'd love that. Yeah. Thank you, Parth.
Yeah.
If you made it to this outro, thank you so much for listening. Genuinely trying my best to get better at this and make it as educational and entertaining for you. So please let me know how I can improve. I freaking love feedback. You can find me on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, @ColeHume. And I post frequently on my Substack, so if you like to read a little, check out Young, Smart, and Battling Broke there. Until next time, smile at strangers and trust your curiosity. Thank you so much.